All right, greetings everyone. Welcome to Late Night with Lovecraft eZine. Hope you guys are doing all right tonight. Hope you're having a good night. Let me fix my camera here. Let me know if you can see me. All that good stuff, okay? View. And full screen. There we go. So yeah, sound okay tonight? I think Logan and I have finally worked out the bugs. So, thank you, Alan. Hey, everybody. Ben Handelman was telling me last week, or a few days ago, that he really likes the informality of Thursdays, Late Night with Lovecraft eZine, which is not to say that we're terribly formal on Sundays, because we're not, but even less so tonight. He seems to think that you guys would listen to me talk about Oreo for 20 minutes. So, I mean, I believe that. Who wouldn't want to hear about Oreo the cat, right? Speaking of, oh, she's over there. She's over there in her bed. Yeah, she's going to make me do all the work. Going to make me do all the work while she just rests over there, as usual. But she is sick, right? So, well, what can I say except thank all of the gods for the Patreons. If you're listening right now or later and you're a Patreon, boy, I really appreciate you. It makes all the difference between being able to keep doing this and not being able to keep doing this. Excuse me. So, let me know again that the sound and the video is still alright. And, excuse me. A few coughs tonight. I don't know if any of you have heard me recommend this. Hey, Chaz, Jay, Alan and Brian. Haruka, you're Alan, right? I can't keep track of everything. All right, so I have this on Kindle, but I was also given this on as a gift a couple of Christmases ago. So yeah, the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. I really love this book. I have it on Kindle because, I mean, man, highlighting, and I don't want to highlight in this beautiful book. Deface it in any way. Reminds me of an Angel episode where that reminds me of an Angel episode where they are, What Do You Love by my desk, Chaz? Thanks. Let's see. A Harmony, that's her name, has been turned into a vampire, and they're trying to put up with her because Cordelia doesn't want to kill her because she used to be her friend. So she's chewing bubblegum in the Angel offices while they're all studying, trying to figure out a case. And of course, Wesley has all these old books sitting around, and hundreds of years old, thousands of years old. So she's chewing gum, and she grabs a page out of one, tears it out of the book, puts her gum in it, and throws it away. And Wes is like, "What the hell are you doing? That book is over 2,000 years old," or whatever it was. And Harmony's like, "Well, geez, at least I didn't mess up a new one." So, yeah. Anyway, do any of you own this? It's also improbably available on Audible. And yeah, I got that too. Used one of my credits on that a while back. It's kind of interesting and relaxing to listen to at night sometimes as you're going to sleep. Oh, good. This one is Now, if you don't know the concept behind the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, let me just read a couple of sentences from the back. The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows defines new words for emotions that we all feel but don't have the language to express. That first sentence does it well enough. This one's called astrophy. Let's see. It's possible that there are other names for our planet that we will never know. That there are constellations that feature our sun from an angle that we'll never get to see. That there are many other civilizations hidden beyond the veil of time, too far away for their light to ever reach us. This guy's a hell of a writer, too. A few paragraphs later in this entry, it's possible that our spacesuits won't. He's talking about maybe the human race has finished with space exploration, which, fair question, right? It's possible that our spacesuits won't need treaded boots ever again. That one day soon we'll tire of exploring and move back home for good. And we'll get used to watching our feet as we walk, occasionally stopping to hurl a single probe into the abyss, like a message in a bottle. Maybe it shouldn't matter if anyone ever finds it, if nobody's there to know that we once lived here on Earth. Maybe it should be like skipping a stone across the surface of a lake. It doesn't matter where it ends up. All that matters is that we're here on the shore, trying to have fun and pass the time, and see how far it goes. And I think right there is one of the secrets to life. You know, people are always asking, what's the point of life? What's the secret to life, the universe, and everything? I mean, damn it, just what is the bloody point? Well, maybe there is no point. I mean, you know, there's so many different species on this planet, and they don't ask themselves what the point is. They just get up and do what they do. And maybe we could take a page from their book. So, looks like we got somebody new. Hi, Diane. Or if you're not new, I apologize. Cat. What the hell? Yeah, you're way past your bedtime. It's got to be like 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning where you are in Germany. Well, that brings me to my next topic. For those who don't know, Kat here, Katrin, is Joe Pulver's wife, the late writer Joe Pulver, who was one of my very best friends for years. He was on the podcast, and you know, also in addition to doing the podcast, he and I, Kat, 3 times a week at least, would video chat for hours. Sometimes we'd be working, writing, whatever, and we'd just have it on like we were in the same room together, and we weren't always saying much, but we were together in the room. I really, really miss him. Sometimes I would email him with a question. He's been around this weird fiction horror community longer than me, and instead of answering the question, he'd return the email with something like 5 minutes, which meant that he's gonna go get a cup of tea. He loved his tea, and then he'll be right back, and he wanted to video chat. So I really missed that. Yeah, Kat says, I can't count the times where I heard your voice when I came home. I don't know what the something else breathing means. Cat's in Germany, in Berlin. So, anyway, I want to read something that I wrote about Joe. I thought I had it pulled up, but I guess I don't. But I can solve that in just a few seconds. I couldn't sleep at all last night. I've gotten like 2 hours sleep in the last 36 hours, something like that. I couldn't sleep, and I was thinking about Joe because it was the 4th anniversary of his death. He died on April the 24th, 2020. So on that day I wrote a short, I wrote a very short kind of tribute to him, I guess, or just a post about him. And here it is. Goodbye, my friend Joe Pulver, July 5th, 1955 to April 24, 2020. All right. Sometimes in this life, this is a quote, sometimes in this life you meet people who you might call large-souled, who are privileged to know. And I'll continue in a second. What Joe Pulver book would you recommend for someone who's never read him? If you want something Lovecraftian, his first book was Nightmare's Disciple, but it was quite different from everything he wrote after that. He got really, after that, he kind of found his voice. He was a very poetic writer, very, very poetic prose. So I don't actually know how to answer that question. If you want short stories, get one of his collections. If you want a novel, get that. I'm sure Kat could recommend a good book of his to start with. Chaz says, what a brilliant guy he was. I remember Joe Pulver talking about Ligotti and other writers. I didn't know you'd been listening that long, Chaz. That's great. Brian says, I just watched the Joe Pulver tribute episode of the podcast last night. Been catching up on the ones that I missed when they originally came out. And take a drink and then go back to my reading this. Wow. It would help if there we go. I am absolutely gutted to report that my friend Joseph S. Pulver Sr. died today. Joe was 64 years old. I keep writing things here and then erasing them. The fact is, I can't think clearly today, and anything I write is not enough to express my feelings about one of my very best friends. Of course, I wasn't his only friend. Joe was open, Joe was giving, and he was extremely supportive of other writers, editors, and publishers. I'm glad Joe's pain is over and that he's now at peace. At the same time, I keep thinking of the lyrics to Fire and Rain by James Taylor. I'm sure you guys know them. First stanza ends, always thought I'd see you again. Joe was struggling for a long time physically. Before that, he was a regular contributor to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. You know, that's the thing about doing this podcast for years. There are literally probably several hundred hours of episodes with Joe Pulver. So, you know, you can pull those up, and in those videos, he's alive. I can almost fool myself when I watch one of those that he is. In addition to the podcast, I've spent hundreds of hours over the years chatting with him via video calls. It was the next best thing to being in the same room with him. I always hoped that he would be back, in the words of the song, that I would see him again. In fact, on the March 1st eZine podcast this year, that'd be 2020, Joe and Kat were able to drop by and chat for a few minutes. And I've got a link to that in this. You can go to the Lovecraft eZine website, and then in the search field on the left, if you're on a computer, that is, you can type in Joe Pulver, and this is like the first or second one that comes up. He was obviously very tired, but he was lucid. One of the last things he said was, "I'll be back as soon as I can." I can't think about that without it tearing me up inside. I really believed it would happen. And then I linked to the tribute episode. And then April 16th, 2016, that's eerily close to April 24th, was designated Pulver Day by Mike Griffin, another one of Joe's friends. He asked some of us to write tributes to Joe, and the results were grand. There are links to all of them here. Joe was very much with us at the time and got a real kick out of it. I applaud Mike Griffin for organizing something like this then, instead of waiting until a time came that Joe could not read them. Yeah, that's something. Why do we always do these tributes for people, writers, editors, whatever, teachers, after they die? Mike Griffin had a great idea to do it while Joe was alive. Hey Dave, thanks for being here. Anyway, I wrote something. The first part of my offering to Pulver Day was decidedly tongue-in-cheek. The last few paragraphs, not so much. Here they are. This is what I wrote for the April 16th, 2016 thing that Mike Griffin did. Pulver Day. I spent many an hour with my friend Joe that way, video chats, talking about weird fiction, horror, you name it. He's gone now, but we still have his work. He lives on through his books, and he continues to inspire this new generation of weird fiction writers. I know, because I've heard them talk about him. And lately, I've heard something else. One last tale, you might say. They say that sometimes, long after midnight, when the writing block sets in and everything feels hopeless, when they feel that perhaps they aren't cut out to be writers, or musicians, right, or podcasters, or whatever, fill in the blank there, when a gibbous moon hangs in the sky and the stars almost look black, something strange happens. Their computer monitor flickers, and then a window appears on the corner of the screen. At first, all is dark. Then a match flares, and a man with a white beard and a drooping mustache lights a cigarette. He's sitting at a desk. Bookshelves tower over him. He glares, and they can feel his eyes boring into them through cables and Wi-Fi and time and space from Carcosa. And then he speaks. "Bleed," he says to them. "Bleed on the page." And then he is gone. So, I hope you guys like that. I know there are many of us that miss Joe. I received an email from somebody this morning, after I was up all night just thinking about Joe and feeling pretty depressed about it. A person that I guess had contacted me before, and I remembered once I received today's email, and he basically said that I and the podcast saved his life. And he tells a story of being really in a bad way in his life, and I think destitute and next to homeless, and having to live in a shed that got really hot during the day. And I don't know if it was on a laptop or a phone. I'm going to guess phone. But he said he went to YouTube, and my podcast was the first thing that came up. He wasn't even signed in, he says. And we were talking about a Lovecraftian book. Had the author of that book on. And he just really goes into detail about how much this did for him, and that how the podcast literally saved his life. So it was a really nice email to get, and a nice video to watch. I'll share the link with that. I'll share the link with that later. For that, excuse me. Let's see here. I was interviewed by somebody last night. I mentioned Blue Thunder. Anyone who remembers 80s movies, you remember Blue Thunder? That's one of my favorite 80s movies. That is just a fun movie. I think I might watch that again. Roy Scheider, yeah, 1983. So, yeah. Now, you guys, if you want me to talk about anything tonight or next week, Jaffa, right? Just another fucking observer. Yeah, you can't watch Blue Thunder too many times, Jay. So anyway, yeah, Jaffa. If you have topics that you'd like me to cover tonight or next week, just email me, lovecraftezine at gmail.com. What do we have here? Oh, did you guys catch the office tour? I posted that on YouTube yesterday. Tour of the Lovecraft eZine office. Hope you liked it. I sure like it, the office. I didn't think I'd ever have anything like this, but it's pretty great. It's basically a huge shed, and it's probably the size of a 1-car garage or a 1.5-car garage. Yeah, something like that. And it's got heat, air, electricity. So I don't know China Miéville personally. No, I know a lot of writers, but I don't know them. Thanks. Alan says, enjoyed the tour. Like how you organized your books. Thanks, man. I need to organize some more, but they're pretty organized for the most part. And Joe always said to me that he wasn't a Kindle reader by any stretch, but he could see why some people were. But I love print books. I love Kindle books. And he said this: the thing about print books is when you have them on your shelves in your office or your room or your living room or whatever, they're memories too. You walk past one and you're like, oh, I know this writer gave this one to me, or I bought this on a day when I was down, and at the half-price bookstore, and it really cheered me up, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, hell yeah, I'd recommend The Dark Descent. Oh my gosh, that's a great anthology. Dave says, I remember some stories you would tell with Joe where you would do a Zoom call and just work on stuff while the other was just there. No need to. Yep. I said a little something about that earlier. That's exactly what we would do sometimes. Of course, Joe being Joe, he was never silent for too long. So, which was great. I love listening to him. So, if I cover things that I've covered too many times on the regular show over the years, just write in the side comments, just say, hey, move on, Mike. We've heard this one. So, but I really want to talk about, for just just a moment, I want to talk about again about the show Angel that I really like. And there's an episode where called Epiphany, where Angel kind of realizes he's been an ass, and he's talking to a friend near the end of the episode. And I'm going on memory here, but he says, yeah, the train. You guys can hear that, huh? Because I don't have I'm using my other microphone, so I don't have the kind of background filters on it that I have for the headphones mic. So, I think it adds character. And, yeah, these trains, they go by. I'll have to track how often that I hear them, but it's fairly often. It's not often enough to where I'm like, Christ, I am sick of that sound. It's never that often. But I don't know, maybe once an hour, once every 90 minutes, day and night, I hear them. But especially at night, there's just something about a train out there in the dark, coming from who knows where and going who knows where, right? And so we've got a few more people in here. Thanks, guys. Good to see you. Let me pull up. There's actually in the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, he made up a word about trains. Yep, here it is. Let's see how you pronounce this. Pronounced amenurosis. All right, there we go. Amenurosis. Noun, the half-forlorn, half-escapist ache of a train whistle howling in the distance at night. So that's a short entry, but that really, really sums it up. Half-forlorn, half-escapist ache of a train whistle howling in the distance at night. So yeah. Let's get back to that. If nothing we do matters, I figured maybe I'll just pull up the quote. Yep, there it is. IMDb. All right. So he's talking to his friend, Kate, about things. And he goes, well, I guess I kind of worked it out. Kate has been fired from the police force. And all she ever wanted to be was to be a cop. So she was really depressed about it. And, did a pill-a-thon, as she terms it, tried to commit suicide. And Angel bursts in there and he saves her. So we'll just file under suspicion of disbelief that I guess you can save somebody from taking a bottle of pills. You can save them by slapping them lightly on the face and standing in the shower with them clothed while cold water runs over them. I didn't see anyone throwing up or anything like that, or a hospital visit. An ER visit was apparently not in the works either. But that said, she said to him the next day that she's very grateful, and she said, it's like if I'm not a cop, then nothing I do means anything. And Angel says, it doesn't. And she says, doesn't what? He goes, it doesn't mean anything. There's no great plan, no big win. And she says, you seem kind of chipper about that. He's basically saying that there's no great reward to work towards. There's not anyone out there who's gonna, you know, usher you into paradise because you were a good boy or a good girl. And she says, well, I guess, she goes, you seem kind of chipper about that. And here's the point. Angel says, well, I guess I kind of worked it out. If there's no great glorious end to all of this, if nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do. Because that's all there is. What we do now, today. I fought for so long, for redemption, for a reward, and finally just to beat the other guy, but I never got it. And Kate says, and now you do? And Angel replies, not all of it, but all I want to do is help. I want to help because I don't think people should suffer as they do. Because if there's no bigger meaning, then the smallest act of kindness is the greatest thing in the world. That's what I try to live my life by, as I've probably said a million times on the show, that, well, you know what, I can't really put it any better than Angel did. But it's just something that's very important to me. It's something that I live by, and I wanted to share it. So, I hope that's okay, you guys. Let's see. My friend Vince Clorto. Does anyone want to tell me where that comes from? The name Vince Clorto? Anyway, my friend Vince dared me to put a $500 a month level on the Patreon. What? I wasn't listening? I get that a lot, Jay. I get that a lot. It's season 2. I don't remember which episode number, but it's the name of the episode is Epiphany. Yep, Ghostbusters. Ding, ding, ding. Brian wins. So he dared me to put a $500 level on the Patreon, so I did it last night. And I'm like, nobody is ever going to sign up for $500 a month, Vince. And he's like, you never know. There might be some rich person out there who, you know, you point the way to, you know, a certain amount, and they do it. So there you go. All of you rich people out there, feel free to sign up for the $500 a month. I'm gonna bet. I think I'm gonna text Vince and bet him $1 that that's never gonna happen. But he dared me and I did it. So there you go. Let's see here. Has anyone seen a movie? Matt is going to show it for movie night this Saturday. But I came across the trailer last night when I couldn't sleep. It's the name of the horror. It's a horror film, and the name of it is. Thanks, Kat. You don't have to do that, but. I mean, you know, if he's rich and handsome and you think Joe would approve, which he would, want you to be happy, then go for it, yeah. And you can tell him to send some money my way. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, the name of this movie is called All You Need Is Death. So, all you need. I'm wondering if any of you have seen it. And if you haven't, well, Matt's going to show it on movie night, which is what time everybody starts coming. What time does everyone start coming in? Alan Hughes, about 9:30 Eastern, something like that. All right, here's the synopsis. It's got, for whatever this is worth to you, it's got 84% Rotten Tomatoes score. Synopsis. A young couple who are part of a mysterious secret organization, travel at night to discover forbidden knowledge. They believe that living modern alchemy is contained in old, forgotten songs. I don't know. There's that it just looks good. So 9:30 Eastern. That's what I thought. Yeah. Have you guys been, Alan? Have you guys been capping at 12 pretty typically, or do you usually have like 7 or 8 people in there? Because if you've been capping at 12 I pay for Hyperbeam for Matt and everyone monthly. But if you've been capping at 12 and there are more people that are missing out because they can't get in, then I need to find something that's as good as Hyperbeam but allows more people in. So I don't know. I mean, it is 2024. You'd think there would be something like that. Usually 8 or 9. Okay, well, I guess I won't worry about it right now. But maybe you guys can help me search. If you can find an app or whatever for PC or a website that allows you to watch movies with friends, but will allow more than 12 people in the room, let me know. There are some more out there, but there are a lot of crap ones out there too. I haven't tracked it. I don't know what Cosme is, but if it's good, let me know. Discord, I don't know if I know a little bit about Discord, but not much. I could ask my son, but I don't know that there's a movie watching ability with it. At least I don't think so. Yeah. At least I don't think so. So, all right. Recommendations. I'm trying to remember what I recommended to you guys last week. So that I don't repeat myself. We did talk about Charles Grant a lot, right? So, we could do that for another hour if you want. I'm kidding. All right. The Broken Hours by Jacqueline Baker, a novel of H.P. Lovecraft. Now, this is not a horror novel. This is a really interesting book, fictional account of I don't know what it was, a couple of months or so in the household of H.P. Lovecraft. Let me pull up the synopsis. Oh, well, the synopsis is not pulling up. All right, here we go. So yeah, Lovecraft died in 1937, so this is set in 1936. Yeah, there was a 2-sentence recap, Kat. By the way, those of you who are watching later, make sure that you have the side chat on, and it'll perfectly line up with what the live audience is typing, while I'm talking, so it'll make sense. In the cold spring of 1936, Arthur Crandall, down on his luck and desperate for work, accepts a position in Providence, Rhode Island. Well, that was your first mistake, buddy. As a live-in secretary/assistant for an unnamed shut-in. I wonder who that could be. He arrives at the gloomy colonial-style house to discover that his strange employer is an author of disturbing, bizarre fiction. Health issues have confined him to his bedroom, where he is never to be disturbed. But the writer, who Crandall knows only as Etch Pie, I don't know if I'm saying that right, refuses to meet him, communicating only by letters left on a table outside his room. Soon the home reveals other unnerving peculiarities. There is an ominous presence Crandall feels on the main stairwell. Light shines out underneath the door of the writer's room, but is invisible from the street. It becomes increasingly clear that there is something not right about the house or its occupant. I mean, maybe it's a horror book. It depends on your perspective. Yeah, there's some really poetic turns in this book. Really poetic prose, so to speak. Haunting visions of a young girl in a white nightgown wandering the walled-in garden behind the house motivate Crandall to investigate the circumstances of his employee's dark family history. Meanwhile, the unsettling aura of the house pulls him into a world increasingly cut off from reality, into black depths where an unspeakable secret lies waiting. So, I actually haven't read this in 6 or 7 years. I might reread this. So that's The Broken Hours, a novel of H.P. Lovecraft by Jacqueline Baker. Now, don't expect it to be Lovecraftian, if you know what I mean. Just some of the complaints I saw on Amazon. Idiotic. All right, Dead Romance. I don't know if I've talked about this one. I know a couple years ago I talked about it on the show. Dead Romance is by Dead Romance is by Lawrence Miles. And I came across this book for the first time in a half-price bookstore. And what got me to pick it up off of the dollar rack was that it said on the paperback edition, it said, let's start at the beginning, something like, the world came to an end on October 12th, 1970. And right there, I was intrigued. It's very philosophical in areas. Yeah, this is sort of it's not Doctor Who, but it's Doctor Who adjacent. They talk about this character who's never named in the novel. Have you read this, Alan? And it's clear they're referring to Doctor Who, but this isn't a Doctor Who novel. It's, I would call it more Philip K. Dickian than a Doctor Who novel. What do you think? Do I recommend Charles Beaumont? I know who Charles Beaumont is and kind of stuff he wrote, but he's the urban fantasy guy, right? I've never read a Charles Beaumont book. So many books, so little time, right? What's the title? It's called Dead Romance, Chaz. And no, it's not a romance book. Dead Romance by Lawrence Miles. So, one of my favorite parts of this job is just talking about books and recommending books that I really like. Yeah, it's part of Alan says it's part of a shared universe Miles created called Faction Paradox, but it stands alone. Yeah, if you knew nothing about Doctor Who, absolutely nothing, you could still read this book and it would make sense. Now we got even more people watching, engaging in acts of masochistic viewing pleasure, right? No, I'm kidding. Thank you guys for watching and listening. All right, so there's two. That's The Broken Hours by Jacqueline Baker and Dead Romance by Lawrence Miles. So, here's the thing that this is kind of like, besides maybe keeping me going financially on Patreon, but this is my kind of like the little reward that I ask for when I recommend books. And a lot of people are like, they just really love all the books they wouldn't have discovered without me or the show or the other guys on the show, guys and gal. But here's the payment. You gotta email me and tell me what you thought of the book when you're done reading it, okay? Oh wow, Dave, you and Chaz should talk. Right, Chaz? On the Amazon wish list thing. I'll let him tell you. Okay, what else do I have here? Oh, Damn. Yeah, Jesus Christ. I've started reading this. Okay, so I interviewed the writer Derek Austin Johnson on the show on Tuesday. Yeah, Chazzy, you told me that that you've got a Amazon wish list just with my name on it, right? Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Anyway, and he recommended this writer by the name of C.F. Page. That's C as in car, F as in Frank, and Page as in Page. So here is the cover of the book. I don't know if that's reversed or not. It's on Kindle Unlimited. So it's called Native Fear. And first of all, it meant something to me that Derek recommended it to me, so I thought, I'll enjoy it. Praise for Native Fear. It's a beautiful, brutal, complex, terrifying read. Page manages to weave together strong undercurrents of cosmic horror, cult situations, splashes of sci-fi, and even some slasher flavors. There are creatures, mysteries, and creepy characters aplenty. Original and engaging, with nuanced characters that aren't caricatures, and in fact mock the stereotypes. Oh, you know him? Does he go by CF? He and I just exchanged emails, and we're going to figure out a date. I'm glad he was excited about it. I've started reading Native Fear, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Oh, thanks for letting him know, though. Page's writing is much like Lovecraft's Oceans, glassy smooth in places, terrifyingly brutal in others, ever dark and full of mystery. So there you go. Native Fear by C.F. Page, and I've read enough of it that I feel confident in thinking that you guys will enjoy it also. Plus, I trust Derek. So there we go. There's that. And what else do we have here? Let me look at the old print back here. Okay, so Alan and those who've been around for a while, you probably heard me talk about the 20 Days of Turin, but you might not have, Chaz and a few others. This is a classic. The 20 Days of Turin by Giorgio de Maria, if I'm saying that right. Really intriguing, really interesting setup. This is the jacket. In the spare wing of a church-run sanatorium, lovely, some zealous youths create the library, in quotes, a space where lonely citizens can read one another's personal diaries and connect with like-minded souls in dialogues across the ether. This is set in the 70s in Italy. But when their scribblings devolve into the ugliest confessions of deviancy, the library's users learn too late that a malicious force has consumed their privacy and their sanity. This sounds like the internet. As the city of Turin suffers a 20-day, quote, phenomenon of collective psychosis, culminating in nightly massacres that hundreds of witnesses cannot explain, the library is shut down and erased from history. That is, until a self-driven sleuth decides to investigate these mysterious events which the citizenry of Turin fear to mention. Inevitably drawn into the city's occult netherworld, he unearths the stuff of modern nightmares. What is shared can never be unshared. Yeah, I mean, It sounds just like the internet. An allegory inspired by the grisly neo-fascist campaigns of its day, the 20 Days of Turin has enjoyed a fervent cult following in Italy for 40 years. Now, in a fretful new age of lone wolf terrorism fueled by social media, we can find resonances in Maria's vision of mass fear, a mute, palpitating dread that seeps into every moment of daily existence. With its apocalyptic repercussions of oversharing, this bleak story is more disturbingly prescient than ever. Yeah. I honestly, so anyway, that's the 20 Days of Turin, and I think you guys enjoy it. Anyone who's into weird fiction should enjoy it. But I'll tell you, I don't get, and I'm not trying to be snarky or like I've got life figured out and other people don't, anything like that. But I don't honestly understand when people feel like that they're constantly, well, what's the word? That social media and the internet is just too much in their lives, and it's really stressing them out. Well, I don't get it. So just don't be on social media. Take it off your phone. Some people who have an issue with this and they recognize it, they'll take, Twitter and Facebook and all those things, all those social media apps off of their phone so that they can only access it on their computers. Yeah, I suppose that's true, Chaz. I've certainly been lonely plenty of times in my life. And social media can be a really wonderful thing. And I use social media to communicate with you guys. You're here because you probably read on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere that I was doing the show tonight. So I'm not dissing social media per se, and I'm not making fun of anyone who has a problem with it, that's affecting them negatively. Yeah, that's true, Cap. I don't think I'd be on social media if it wasn't for the eZine. But it's done a lot of good things for me. I think it's like anything else. There's a parable about this guy. He's walking towards a town, and he passes a wise man sitting under the tree. And he asks the wise man, he goes, what kind of people are live in the town up here? He's moving. And the wise man says, well, what kind of people were in the last town where you're moving from? And the guy says, oh, they're awful. Everyone's, really mean to each other, and they talk about each other behind, and the works. And the wise man says, well, I hate to tell you this, but that's how the people in this town are as well. So a little bit later, another guy comes walking by, and he's going to move to the town too. MySpace. And he asks the same question of the wise man. He says, what kind of people live in the town that is up ahead that, I'm probably going to move to? Stan. And the wise man asks him again, this guy, the same question. What kind of people lived in the town that that you lived in before? And he said, oh, they're the nicest people. Everyone looks out for everyone. It's just a great place to live, and everyone's got your back, and so forth. And the wise man says, about the same town as the first guy. That's what's important to realize. He says, well, good news. That's the way that people are in this town as well. So there's so much shit on Twitter, on Facebook, especially on Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called, and other social media, but it's just, I never see it because I hang around with the people who don't do that on social media, you could say. So anyway, I don't know what brought that up. Well, 20 Days of Turin. I think I might have mentioned this last time. Blackwater, the Book of Fantastic Literature. This is a hell of a good anthology. A mesmerizing book that evokes the darkness that lies beyond the real world. 72 tales of hauntings, dreams, time warps, transformations, and dealings with God and the devil. Stories that take you to the edge of, wait for it, the Twilight Zone. No, it's not a Twilight Zone book. But, and Way Stations of the Deep Night is another one. I'll go over these kind of quickly. It was published in, quote, the dark year of 1942. The journeys in this volume carry the reader through the surreal vistas of an underground city that appears above ground as a bizarre theater of facades, and a fire-ravaged landscape where souls turn to ash. By playing with the format of the ghost story or the horror tale, Brian transforms the romantic way stations in this volume into stages on an inward journey into lucid dreams and no less lucid nightmares. So this is really good. Weird fiction. And let's see, last but not least, another collection of great stories, The Lost District by Joel Lane. Is this backwards to you guys? Can you read it? Is it mirror reversed? It's not to me, but well, wait a second. Try that again. No, it's not reversed. Okay. Blackwater. Yeah, I thought about that too with this title. Yeah, I think I've read that one. I've read 2 or 3 of his, but it's been a while. So it's good. What's good? Blackwater. Excuse me. All right, what else do we have to talk about here? Alan, you might like this. Not that it has anything to do with horror, but I've been using a note-taking app called Obsidian. Are you familiar with it? It uses Markdown, and it's what they call future-proof. So the notes that you take with it will be, let's say, readable with future software. So, your daughter uses it in college? Man, it's amazing. There's this YouTube channel that I'm learning from. It's on Obsidian. It's called Linking Your Thinking. And the best way to think about this, for those of you who take a lot of notes, is, think of a website where you say something like, Mike Davis's podcast is going to introduce you to a lot of books. Okay, so you could hyperlink the word podcast to my YouTube channel, right? You could hyperlink the word books to some recent, to another web page that's appropriate, and so forth and so on. And it's the same way with this, except the hyperlinked pages are pages that you've created yourself. So that's not a very good explanation, but you can look up Obsidian if you want to. You can Google it. The other thing with plugins, you can forward emails to Omnivore and have them forever in your Obsidian. You can forward articles to Omnivore. That's free. Do the same thing. So, what is your daughter studying, Alan? What's her major? Yeah, get this. Is it like Evernote? I mean, it's the same idea that Evernote, like taking notes that are going to last forever. Well then, foreign policy. Oh, she needs Obsidian, all right. That kid's going to be taking a lot of notes, man. So yeah, it's kind of like an advanced version of Evernote is the best way I can put it, but that's not really accurate either. So anyway, horror movie by Paul Tremblay. This is really good, guys. It comes out in June I think it is, and we're gonna have Paul on the show right around the time that the book comes out. So, in June 1993, a group of young guerrilla filmmakers spent 4 weeks making Horror Movie, a notorious, disturbing art house horror flick. You can put this book in with that subgenre of books that are about strange and disturbing and weird films, right? That's a really interesting subgenre. Okay, so it goes on to say, the weird part, only 3 of the film's scenes were ever released to the public, but Horror Movie has nevertheless grown a rabid fan base. 3 decades later, Hollywood is pushing for a big budget reboot. The man who played the thin kid is the only surviving cast member. He remembers all too well the secrets buried within the original screenplay, the bizarre events of the filming, and the dangerous crossed lines on set that resulted in tragedy. As memories flood back in, the boundaries between reality and film, past and present, start to blur. But he's going to help remake the film, even if it means navigating a world of cynical producers, egomaniacal directors, and surreal fan conventions. Demons of the past be damned. But at what cost? Horror Movie is an obsessive, psychologically chilling, and suspenseful feat of storytelling genius that builds inexorably to an unforgettable, mind-bending conclusion. You can tell Paul didn't write that. Storytelling genius. He's too humble to write that. But it's true. The Angel of Indian Lake. I've not read that for Stephen Graham Jones. I haven't read it yet. It's on my list. How was it? Have you read it? I don't know if Horror Movie is based on a short story. I don't remember anything like that, but I'll certainly try to remember to ask Paul when he's on the show. So okay, so there's that. Those are some good recommendations for you guys. I hope. Oh, I know they're great books. I hope you enjoy them. Okay, we talked about Obsidian. This is very meta because I'm looking at notes that I wrote in Obsidian, Alan, for the show. So, mention that. What's this here? Oh, that doesn't belong in here. It's a Batman thing. Let's see. Here, I'll give you one more recommendation that is not horror or weird fiction or anything. It's nonfiction. I guess you could call it a self-help book, but it's not a bullshit self-help book. Do I write in my books? No. That's why I have Kindle. One of the reasons why I have Kindle. I do a lot of highlighting, and then I can go and look at the highlights all and all together, and it's great. And the other thing about Obsidian, every time I highlight something in a book, it puts that book into Obsidian, into my list of books in Obsidian. And if the book was already there, it adds to the highlights. If the book wasn't there yet, it puts it there with that first highlight. And so I feel like every time I read a book on Kindle now, and I read a lot of books on Kindle, that I'm not forgetting that years from now I'm going to be able to look back and go, oh, I read this on August 24th, August 25th, or April 25th, 2024, and here's what I underlined or highlighted, excuse me. So yeah. I guess nonfiction is different. Anyway, the self-help book is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So there's the title for you. I don't know if any of you have heard about this book or read the book, but I really like the no-nonsense of it. There's just a lot of really great common sense in there. And if you're prone to depression, if you think that maybe you're a loser and you're not living up to what you think you should be, it really gives you some matter-of-fact advice on that. And I'm rereading it slowly. I read it when I got it a couple of years ago. Speaking of highlighting, I'm going to look up my highlights in the book. Oh, and his next book is called Everything is Fucked, a book about hope. It's by Mark Manson. So, yeah, pencil mage, but you would be surprised that sometimes what we think of as common sense has not occurred to some people, and so reading a book like this is really good for them. And reading a book like this is really good for me too, because it reminds me of things that I know already. No relation to Charles. It's like this sign I have tacked up over here. I'll get it down here. Tack it back up later. I know this, but I put it up on my bulletin board because I don't want to forget it. It's a Venn diagram, and things that matter and things you can control, and that little bit in the middle is what to focus on. Now, not everyone thinks this way, and I'm not going to say that they're wrong if they don't, but I think this way. I'm only one person doing the best that he can, and so I guess my point, pencil mage, is that I know this stuff, but it's so easy to forget the things that help us, right? And so I've got that tacked up over here, and I look at it every day because I don't want to forget about it. Yeah. In this chapter, he's talking about the self-improvement, market and self-help books and all that. But when you stop and really think about it, conventional life advice, all the positive and happy self-help stuff we hear all the time, is actually fixating on what you lack. It lasers in on what you perceive your personal shortcomings and failures to already be, and then emphasizes them for you. You learn about the best way to make money because you feel like you don't have enough money already. You stand in front of the mirror and repeat affirmations saying that you're beautiful because you feel as if you're not beautiful already. You follow dating and relationship advice because you feel that you're unlovable already. You try goofy visualization exercises about being more successful because you feel as though you're not successful enough already. Ironically, this fixation on the positive, on what's better, what's superior, only serves to remind us over and over again of what we are not, of what we lack, of what we should have been but failed to be. After all, no truly happy person feels the need to stand in front of a mirror and recite that she's happy. She just is. So, things like that. They talk about Charles Bukowski. I mean, what a philanderer and, skirt chaser this guy was. But he never tried to be anything other than he was. Now, I mean, you can go too far with this and think that, okay, if I'm an asshole, I've got a right to be an asshole. I can't change. He's not talking about that. He's talking about learning for yourself who you are and where you fit into the world, like a puzzle piece, where you really fit in. And when you do that, when you find that out, it's a really peaceful, fulfilled feeling, And the thing that makes you happy, one of the things that makes you happy doing, like being a writer or a teacher or a podcaster or a whatever, is when you do it, you feel like this is what you were meant to do. My wife, she was an attorney. Yeah, you get there by realizing that you're already there. That's a great quote. Alan Watts. My wife is an excellent example of this. When I met her, she was in her second year of law school. And very, very, very passionate about it. And then she was I guess in states like New York, they would call him a district attorney or an ADA, an assistant district attorney. And so she was that for years and put bad guys in jail and all that stuff. And then she worked with me for a while in real estate because Logan had just been born, and she really, above all, wanted to be free to spend whatever time with him that she wanted to spend. And so, she was talking to me one time about some things that had her frustrated at work, and I was like, quit. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, just quit. Come work with me or whatever, or don't, do whatever you want to do. I'm like, we'll be okay, money wise. And she did, and she really enjoyed working with me in real estate, by the way. And then when we moved down here, she became a teacher. That's the short version. And I'll tell you what, I've seen her as an attorney. I've seen her as a real estate agent. I've seen her as a stay-at-home mom. And believe me, she's a hell of a mom. And I've seen her as a teacher. And I'll tell you what, as good as she was at those other things, and she was very good, and as passionate as she was, this is a job. This is what she was born to do. She really cares about those kids so much. And, attorneys make more typically, right, than teachers. That's not the way it should be, but that's just the way that it is. But that's not why she does it. It's not for the money. We all need money, but I just see every day when I go there to help her out with something, or when she comes home and she tells me about her day, that this was absolutely what she's meant to do. And it's what she's built to do, for lack of a better term. And that's all I'm really talking about is, if someone is applauding you for something, don't wish that they were applauding you for something else. You ever had that feeling? Like, they're applauding me for doing this, but I really wish that I had accomplished this. Yeah, I mean, the make sure you want things because you really, really want them and you're going to enjoy them. I mean, writing is an excellent example, right? How many times do you see on social media writers bitching about writing? I mean, you know, everything that they talk about with writing is almost everything is negative. You know, I don't know why they're doing it, because what you do should bring you joy. And if it doesn't, you should be doing something else. It's really that simple. Because none of us are guaranteed an afterlife of sorts. Maybe there is one, I don't know. But I've not seen any evidence for it. So I'm going to assume, thanks to Occam's razor, I'm going to assume that there isn't one. Well, if there isn't one, and even if there is, I'm not going to sit around waiting for that afterlife and it's okay to be miserable in this life. You know, religion is the opiate of the people, right? You can be perfectly miserable in this life because someday you're going to go to heaven. Well, maybe you will go to heaven. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Anyone who says they really do know, they don't either. But do what makes you happy. I mean, the moment that I realized that there probably wasn't a God and there probably wasn't a heaven, and believe me, let me just say, anyone who feels that there is, or has faith, whether it's Christianity, or Judaism, or Muslim, or whatever it is, there's a lot of religions. That, you know, if that makes you happy, fine. You know, as long as you're not judging and oppressing other people. But my journey, I came to a realization in my heart that there was no evidence for it, and so there probably wasn't one. But what followed after that was not me trying to convince everybody else of that. That's not my job. What followed after that was me thinking that, well, you better make this life as happy as you can make it. You know, you're not guaranteed an afterlife, so get up every morning and do what you want to do, not what you think you have to do for a while until you get something better, and you're postponing your happiness. I have an uncle who's in his mid-70s. Really, really, really nice guy. He's always been a nice guy. He worked for Harris Packaging his entire life. He and my aunt were high school sweethearts, and he got married to her right out of high school. She got married to him when she was still in high school. And he worked there his entire life. And I don't think he was miserable there. I don't at all. But I also don't think that this is what he would be doing if he had $1 million, you know. So he finally was able to retire a few years ago, and he's not been retired for all that long, and he's unfortunately has dementia now, and it's getting worse and worse. So Travis McGee, he's the protagonist of the Travis McGee novels by John D. MacDonald. He had a saying that he takes his retirement. He took his retirement in chunks. If you take the meaning there, he would work for a while as a finder or detective or whatever, and then he'd take 3 months off, and so forth. So yeah, just whatever you're doing now, if you love it, I'm really happy for you, and keep doing it. And whatever you're doing now, if you're not happy with it, change it. Oh, that's another thing I've got posted over here. I won't get it down, but it's written. It's a little something by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and he says, "For what it's worth, it's never too late to be whoever you want to be. I hope you live a life that you're proud of. And if you find that you're not, I hope you have the strength to start over. And that's all I'm really trying to say. As usual, F. Scott Fitzgerald puts it a lot better than I do. Okay, so anything else you guys want to talk about? Yeah, that's a great quote, Jeff. And another thing, it can be easy to forget, right? That's why I have it in front of me. If you look at my finger, there's where the quote is, right there. So I see it every day, and I remember. Okay, what else we got here? I know you guys, some of you want to hear about the cult stuff, so maybe we'll end with that and let you guys get to bed. I'll talk about that for a few minutes. Thanks for being here, you guys. This is a lot of fun. And I started as an experiment, a month ago, to see if anyone was even interested. And turns out you guys are. Kept thinking about Art Bell. How cool it always was to listen to, Art Bell and at night coming at you from the high desert. Is that the way you put it? And then in this later program, didn't he have something called Midnight in the Desert? And there's just something about a voice in the night, right? Yeah, Coast to Coast AM. Yeah, used to go to sleep to that show. Jeff says, yeah, that's the thing. That's exactly the thing. It's very relaxing to listen to. There's a character in Summer of Night by Dan Simmons, and he's one of the kids, and it's set in 1963 or 1964, something like that. It's a really good book. I don't know if you guys haven't read it, you should check it out. And it's nostalgic as well. So this one particular kid, he has a room in the basement that he made himself, and I totally agree. Summer of Night belongs alongside Boy's Life and It. And a book by Jeffrey Ford that I can't think of the title of now. Boy's Life, by the way, anyone who hasn't read Boy's Life, this is definitely in my personal top 10 of best books ever written. Boy's Life is by Robert R. McCammon is just amazing, incredible. Anyway, back to Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. This kid lost his mother at a really young age. He's like 12, and his dad's an alcoholic. His dad and mom's bedroom was on the second floor. It's a farmhouse, forgot to say. But his father can't stand to sleep in the bedroom anymore because he misses his wife, so he sleeps on the daybed or whatnot in the living room. And the kid makes a bedroom of one corner of the basement, and he puts like blankets around and creates this corner. And Dan Simmons says it wasn't as pathetic as it sounded. It sounded really cozy, actually. And he listens to radio at night, all kinds of radio, talk radio, baseball games. It's just something really cool and romantic, not in the love, not love romance, but you know what I mean. I'm sorry. Something really cool about voices in the night, and he's in there in the basement in the middle of winter, and it talks about that, and he is listening to voices from miles away, sometimes hundreds of miles away. So, yeah, that's right at the beginning. It's the introduction, isn't it? Or the foreword, Jeff? So, this is why if you're watching later, you have to look at the side chat. You don't have to, but then you'll see what I'm responding to. Um, anyway, I just, there's something really cool about a voice in the night, listening to all that. And so that's what I had in mind with this. Does anyone remember how I even started in on this? Let's see, talked about that. XXA. Yep, magic, spanked out, churched out. Yeah, that's an amazing introduction. Talked about that. All right, so I know we were going to talk about cold stuff. Anyway, a few minutes, and then I'll let you guys go to bed. And this old man will go to bed himself. The first thing I remember about the move, I was born in a little town called eZine, and it's northwest of Fort Worth. It's still small now, I think, but it was a hell of a lot smaller then. And we lived in Fort Worth, my mom and dad and me and my little sister, who was a year younger than me. And I remember my dad telling me that we were going to move to a place called Iowa, and it snowed there, so it would be cool. And I didn't understand why we were moving, but he explained to me that we were going to be going to this church, and basically had this laundry list of all the things that we couldn't do anymore. No TV. We couldn't ride our bikes. That we weren't going to be allowed to have bikes. And just on and on and on. And that was the least of it after I was there for a while. Because there were some horrible things that went on. I mean, not having a TV was not fun, but it was the least of it, So this was 1977, and I remember thinking the day before we moved, I was at the park. I'm sure my mom was there. I'm sure I wasn't there on my own at 6 years old. I was at the park, and I remember I was playing on it by myself, playing on the jungle gyms and all kind of stuff. And I remember clearly thinking that tomorrow at this time I'll be hundreds of miles away. I actually had that thought. And the thing you have to understand is that my entire family, not just my immediate family, was in Fort Worth. Both sets of grandparents. My mom's 3 sisters, which all 3 of them had kids, so these were my cousins. I played with them all the time. My mom had 3 sisters, and my dad's parents lived in Fort Worth. It was a wonderful situation to be in. I mean, my dad was an asshole, but that aside, I remember saying, things to him like, Dad, why can't we watch TV? And he just, that's the way it is. That's the rule. And I remember one time asking him, Dad, does that mean we can't even watch a TV program about Jesus? And he goes, no. So there you go. There's no way we had the same dad, Mike. No. There's more than one asshole father out there, unfortunately. So, kids are adaptable, but I remember every you don't adapt to abuse, or you try to, but it's hard. I remember every summer my parents would send us down to Texas to be with my relatives, send my sister and I down to Texas. And we were with my relatives for, a couple of weeks. We'd stay at my my aunt Donna's house, who had 3 kids. The oldest was just like 2 years younger than me, so we played with them, and it was just hell. It was every summer I was reminded about what a great life my cousins had. This normal apple pie life, and I was basically reminded that this is what you can't have anymore. And then I had to go back to Iowa with my sister, back to the Colt. And yeah, those trips back were just really upsetting and depressing as hell. But that's how it all started. I remember. Yeah, I remember a lot of things. That's how it all started, and I guess maybe I'll leave it there, and I'll add to that next week if that sounds all right to you guys. I mean, I certainly don't need to talk about it if you guys don't want me to, but I've been asked about it a lot, so let me know. Email me or just type in the side chat, or if you're watching later, comment below on the YouTube. And by the way, that helps the algorithm out a lot. If you click the like button and you commenting is really important. I think it's even more important than clicking the like button, but that's important too. So yeah, if you liked tonight's episode, Late Night with Lovecraft eZine, or Late Night with Mike Davis, whatever you wanna call it, then comment below later on or now or whenever you want to do it, and help the algorithm, say something about the show, and it'll keep me encouraged too. So okay, if you guys want to hear more, then I'll kind of say this is what happened next week, and give it a little give it another 10 or 15 minutes and talk about it. So anyway, you guys, thanks guys. Thanks Jeff, everyone. You guys, let me know what topics you'd like for me to touch on or discuss next week. You can do this by commenting below on YouTube, which, as I said, helps a lot. Or you can email me, or both. I'll see every comment on YouTube, so if you don't want to email me, you don't have to. It's lovecraftezine@gmail.com, and I'll read all the comments below and go from there too. So I'll work from that as well. So if there's something you want to talk about, just say so. And so yeah, I'm still working on rereading this. I think I told you guys about Nocturnes, right? And listening to it at night on Audible. The narrator, Jeff Harding, is just fantastic. And if you guys haven't seen, this is a first edition. Thanks to my friend Peter Rollick, a signed first edition of one of my favorite books. Just sent it to me out of the blue. Thanks, man. I got good friends, so sometimes they even send me espresso makers. I got to figure out how to do that, Chaz. You got to figure out how to do that, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun figuring out. So, hopefully by this time next month I'll add that to my list of skills. Was there anything else? I don't think there was. We've got. Okay, thanks. We've got a guest this Sunday, writer Sam Rebeline. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name because I've only read it, but he's going to be there. And then in the second hour, as usual, we'll talk about anything and everything. So, Kat, good to see you. I'm glad you're dropping in so that you can stay in touch with us. And everyone, thanks for watching and listening. I mean, it means a lot to me that you guys actually wanted to do this. So let me find my. Oh yeah, expert podcaster. By God, yeah. There it is. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching and listening, and goodbye and hello, as always.